Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Shinvata Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Vidyantasto hi avadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavati uttama shlokir bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. Text 62 to 64. Which one is on your sheet? Oh, so the other sheets are not here. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I think 64 would have been on the other sheet because that's the one with the purport, but not a problem. I'll just read 62 and 63. Text 62. Iti uktastam parikramya pranayama cha nirparbhakta yayo. Thank you. Madhuvanam punyam harishcharana charitam. Translation. When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvan, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. Text 63. Tapovanam gate tasmin pravishto nitapuram muni arhitarhanako rajna sukhasina uvachatam. Translation. After Dhruva entered Madhuvan forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. Text 64. If you can follow on your phones, if you have them. We'll do a word for word first. Narada, Uvacha, Rajan, Kim, Dhyayase, Dirgham, Mukhena, Parishushyata, Kim, Va, Na, Rishyate, Kamo, Dharmo, Vartena Samyutaha Narada Uvacha Rajan Kim Dhyayase Dirgham Mukhena Parishushyata Kim Vana Rishyate Kamo Dharmo Vartena Samyutaha Narada Uvacha Rajan Kim Dhyayase Dirgham Mukhena Parishushyata Kim Vana Rishyate Kamo Dharmo Vartena Samyutaha Narada Uvacha Rajan Kim Dhyayase Dirgham Mukhena Parishushyata Kim Vana Rishyate Kamo Dharmo Vartena Samyutaha Narada Uvacha Kim Dhyayase Dirgham Mukhena Parishushyata Kim Vana Rishyate Kamo Dharmo Vartena Samyutaha Narada Uvacha Rajan Kim Dhyayase Dirgham Mukhena Parishushyata Kim Vana Rishyate Kamo Dharmo Vartena Samyutaha Narada Uvacha The great sage Narada Muni said, Rajan, my dear king, Kim, what? Dhyayase, thinking of, Dirgham, very deeply, Mukhena, with your face, Parishushyata, as if drying up, Kimva, whether, na, not, Rishyate, been lost, Kama, sense gratification, Dharma, religious rituals, Va, or Arthena, with economic development, Samyutaha, along with. Translation. The great sage Narada inquired, My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification? Please repeat. The great sage Narada inquired, My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The four stages of advancement of human civilization are religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and, for some, the stage of liberation. Narada Muni did not inquire from the king about his liberation, but only regarding the state management, which is meant for advancement of the three principles, religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. since those who engage in such activities are not interested in liberation. Narada did not inquire from the king about this. Liberation is meant for persons who have lost all interest in religious, ritualistic ceremonies, economic development, and sense gratification. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dheena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvan, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. After Dhruva entered Madhuvan forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. The great sage Narada inquired, "My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification?" Hare Krishna. As always, I ask the blessings of the assembled devotees to allow me to speak something that is in line with Srila Prabhupada's teachings and pleasing to the ears and hearts. So now we see that finally Dhruva has received sufficient instruction and he has surrendered wholeheartedly to the words of Narada, and now he has gone off on his journey and he has entered the forest of Madhuvan to execute devotional service. And while he is on his path that way, Narada decides, okay, let me go and visit the king. Let me go and visit Uttanapad and see what's happening. So still we know that despite the fact that Dhruva had material ambitions when he set out on his path, by the mercy of Narada, we see that by the end he has complete success, far more than anything he ever dreamed of receiving. And that is, he attains the Lord directly. This is more than he could have ever, desired or conceived of when he started. And just receiving Narada's mercy upon him is in itself such a success in his life. The specific instructions he has received from Narada up to this point are a form of mercy for the disciple when we surrender to a bona fide spiritual master and we receive those instructions. I can't remember who I was listening to give a class, but they were saying that when a spiritual master gives you an instruction, within that instruction is the potency to carry it out. So all you have to do as the disciple is wholeheartedly surrender and have faith and try your level best. And in that way, within the instruction you have received is the mercy to execute it perfectly. This is the interesting nature of the guru-disciple relationship, that wholehearted surrender gives you all success in spiritual and material life in different ways. And Dhruva is so successful. Why? Because he has very nicely followed the instructions he has received from Narada. So the pure devotee will always kindly give their mercy to anyone who is sincere enough to receive it. But we cannot simply sit and do nothing with this mercy. We cannot just wait around and expect everything will come automatically. No, we have to make the endeavor. We have to take the instruction we have received and we have to do something with it, which is what Dhruva is doing now. He has set out on his journey to Madhuvan with all of these instructions from Narada, and he's going to execute them very nicely. Srila Prabhupada himself says, why was he so successful? He says because he took the order of his spiritual master as his life and soul. He attributes absolutely nothing to himself, Srila Prabhupada. Everything he has done, he attributes to the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta on him. And he's wholeheartedly taking those very few instructions that he got, but he took them so deeply within his heart and he executed them in a very amazing way. And that is because a bona fide guru's instructions will always be related to serving the Lord in some way. That's why they will always be successful, because they are related to Krishna himself, who is the reservoir of all pleasure. So if a pure devotee is merciful and kind on us in some way, then of course the Lord will be merciful on us, because he sees that if my pure devotee sees something in you and he has given you some mercy, some instruction in this way, so I will bless you in that way. Even if the Lord's mercy on us is gradual, it's not very quick, it takes some time, but the Lord's mercy will always be there on the sincere devotee in any step or any phase of life. If one is sincere, then the Lord's mercy and the devotee's kindness will always be there. So I thought that when I was reading this, we should take at this point a few moments to reflect just on Narada Muni. We've been focusing a lot, on his instructions and on Dhruva's enthusiasm, but let's think about Narada's enthusiasm thus far and Narada's expertise in how he is spreading bhakti in such a very potent way. Sometimes, Narada appears throughout the Bhagavatam in many different roles, in many different pastimes, in many different moods. But we see that he sometimes breaks the conventional rules of the time. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We see that Narada sometimes may break the conventional rules in some way. If we remember the story of Mrigari the hunter, who was, in the forest and he was half killing animals. This brought him, a lot of joy. Narada came across this, and what did he tell Mrigari? He said, don't half kill them, fully kill them. Now, if you think about it, that's a little bit of an unconventional piece of advice for a sage to give. We hear the story all the time, so we don't think much of it. But wouldn't the correct thing Narada should have said be, don't kill them at all? Why are you causing this pain? But he doesn't say that. He says, why are you half killing? Fully kill the animal. That's a little unconventional for his time, right? And in the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, he, you could say in one way, he breaks the conventional norms of his ashram by bringing a pregnant lady to live in his ashram. And not just any pregnant lady, the wife of the demon who is terrorizing everyone in the whole universe. So Narada's, he's a brahmachari, he's a celibate, and he brings a pregnant woman into his ashram and teaches her. For the norm of the time, you would think, okay, that's a little bit unconventional as well. When Narada speaks to Kamsa, and he's trying to speed up the birth of Krishna, he confuses Kamsa by just teaching him a whole different system of counting. He's like, okay, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can go, 8, 7, 6, 5, or you can go 3, 2, 1, 7, 5, just like a whole very different, not normal way of rational thinking at all. So we can see he's sometimes not being very conventional in what he does. But we can take the example of Narada and understand that he, if you think about it in inverted commas, you could use the word liberal. He's being a bit liberal with what he's doing. But why is Narada so expert and so enthusiastic in what he's doing? He is a good, the word is bhajananandi. He has very good internal sadhana, right? There's a term, if you speak Hindi, it's called apachka sunna. Very literally translated, apachka sunna means diarrhea hearing, or just undigestible hearing, right? Indigestive hearing. So when we hear just so we can speak, just so we don't want to absorb anything, we just want to hear and let it out in some way, right? We are not hearing as a service for ourselves. When it just goes in and it comes out, right? It doesn't go into the heart. It doesn't assimilate into us. It's not digested. Whatever we're hearing, whatever we're practicing is not digested. Your hearing could be described as an empty bullet. You can shoot a blank with a gun. You can fire some shots, but they're not going to cause any real damage or do anything, right? They're just empty. It's not going to hit anything. But Narada is not like that. Why is he so expert and so enthusiastic? Because he is so energized through his personal practice of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, of constantly remembering the Lord, and just constantly being engaged in service. There's that song, right? Narada Muni Bajaya Veena Radhika Ramana Name. That Narada Muni travels throughout the whole of existence, throughout the whole universe. What is he doing? He's just playing his veena, glorifying Radhika Raman, Radha and Krishna. He's just constantly chanting and chanting and chanting. So if you look at history and other traditions as well, the great saints or the great, they call them the great masters in those traditions, sometimes they do teach in unconventional ways, right? If someone walks right into the temple and they say, I want to be a millionaire. I really want to be a millionaire, and I know that the best way to be a millionaire is to join the temple and to serve Krishna. We will welcome them with open arms. It's like, hey, Satyarani, there's someone for the book table for you. They're just want to serve wholeheartedly because they're so convinced. But look at what Narada is telling Dhruva. Dhruva is telling Narada, I want a kingdom greater than my great-grandfather's. I'm going to go and find Krishna to ask for it. And Narada looks at him and he doesn't say, yeah, that's the right thing to do. He says, what does he say initially? Nah, you're too young. Are you sure you want to do this? This is for old people. I don't think this is the path for you. And then he says, but think about it. I mean, so many other older people tried it and they were unsuccessful for hundreds and thousands of lifetimes. Go home. Don't do it. Yeah, don't join the temple. Don't go find Krishna. Don't. That's not the answer, right? If you read The Journey Home by Radhanath Swami, he relates this pastime of when he was with the Naga Babas. And he was in this, I can't remember exactly where he was, but they were coming towards him very fiercely with a trident. And he was really scared because he was thinking, okay, they're going to kill me now. I don't know what I did, but, they're coming for me. He was so afraid, he thought, this is it. This is the end. But it turns out he was actually wearing shoes near their deities. Right. So they came at him, and eventually when he realized what he did, he took his shoes off, and then they calmed down, and then they spoke to him, and they said, actually, we were not angry with you at all, but we had to teach you in this way so you wouldn't forget the lesson. I mean, I don't think he'll ever, wear shoes next to a deity again, because he has this lesson that, the Naga Baba came at me with a trident because I was doing this. So what do we understand from Narada's example? That there are these words in Sanskrit, sahajata and sahajya. So we as devotees have to preach with sahajata. There is a difference, right, between sahajya and sahajata. Sahajya, we know that there's no siddhanta. It's just whimsical. It's whatever you feel like emotionally without any actual theoretical knowledge of what bhakti is. You just make up something by reading something that is a little bit too high in terms of philosophy for you to understand, and you make up your own conception, and whimsically, sentimentally, you do something, right? But what is sahajata? Sahajata is a natural way of cultivating your sadhana in a way that is both enabling and inspiring to the recipient or even to yourself. So this is what Narada is doing. He is cultivating Dhruva in a way that enables him and inspires him to do something much larger than what he thought he would do, right? There's a story where one day a boy asks his father, "What is Brahman?" So the father looks at him and he says, "Okay, we'll talk about it tomorrow. But for now, I want you to take a glass of water and dissolve a teaspoon of salt in it." He does that. The next day comes, the son goes back to the father and he says, "What is Brahman?" The father looks at him and says, "Okay, before we get to that, bring that glass of water here and drink it." So the son drinks a little bit, and the father asks him, "Is it salty?" And he says, "Yeah, it's like the salt was dissolved in that. It's very salty." So the father says, "Okay, now take the salt out of it." And he says, "Well, I can't. It's been dissolved in this." So the father looks at him and he says, "That's Brahman, right? It's there, but you cannot exactly see it. You cannot remove it. You cannot take it out, but it's there nevertheless in everything, subtly." So that is one example, you could say, of unconventional teaching. He learned the lesson. He understood by the end what Brahman was, but the father didn't, sit him down and say, "Okay, the Vedanta Sutra says this and that and that." He taught him in a way that he would immediately understand and assimilate. There's another pastime, or, one day, or another story, that one day there was a guru from the Ramanuja, a branch of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, and he went to visit his disciple who was living in a forest somewhere. So he went, and the disciple was serving him very nicely. And one evening, the disciple was massaging his feet. And he said, "Maharaj, I have a question for you, a very genuine question, that I have been chanting for so many years, but I have no taste. Why? Why do I have no taste?" And he was genuinely asking. He wasn't like trying to be funny or anything. He was genuinely like, I have no taste. I've been doing this for decades now, but I have no taste. Now think about if someone asks you this question, how you would answer. "Oh, you need to pray more, the anarthas in your heart, the mirror of your heart needs to be cleansed a little more, you need to read, you need to surrender." We would think, philosophically, we would try and, give him some answer in this way. But the guru didn't do that, right? The guru just looked at him and said, "Then, if something is not yielding any result for you, or you feel it's not beneficial, don't waste your time. Just leave it. Just leave it. And, you're finding no benefit in your chanting, then stop chanting. It's why you're wasting your time." And the disciple got such a shock when he heard this. It's like, that was not, he was expecting some philosophical answer, but the guru told him, if it's not beneficial to you, then stop chanting. Why are you wasting your time with something like this? And he got such a shock that he started to panic. And then he said, "You know what? No. You can tell me," in that moment, he was so panicky that he said that, "You can tell me to leave anything, but don't ever tell me to leave my japa. Don't ever tell me to leave my chanting." So the guru slapped him. Right? The guru slapped him and he said, "You're such a fool, right? You have got everything. You have got everything. What more do you want? How can you say you have no attachment for the holy name? I told you to just leave it and see what answer you're giving me. That, no, I can tell you leave anything else, but you won't leave your chanting. You're such a fool, right? You have exactly what you want. Why are you doubting yourself?" So in this way, a great saint like Narada, they may sometimes behave in a little bit of an unconventional way to instruct us in a way that we can assimilate, right? We know that the name of Krishna is non-different from him. So that's why this guru's point was that you have such an attachment to chanting, what more do you want? You think it's not there, but look, it's actually there. You have this attachment. But to bring out this realization in the disciple, the guru had to question him in such a specific way. Right? The guru had to probe and question in a particular way. And this is what Narada has done up to this point with Dhruva. Right? This is what he's doing. That's why he's saying, why have you come here? Go play, go back to the kingdom. You're not going to be successful. But see, by Narada's questioning, how it brings out the determination in Dhruva. That he actually becomes more determined and he says, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I am determined. I'm going to do this. So, of course, everything in relation to the instructions we receive from a saint need to be contextual and they need to be personal as well. What works for me may not necessarily work for the next person, and Narada understands this. That for another disciple, the process of Ashtanga Yoga may work. But for Dhruva, he's giving him the quickest and the highest method of Bhakti Yoga, right? So Narada is exemplified in this way. And Dhruva, what is Narada's success as a guru? That Dhruva has accepted and surrendered, and he's gone to Madhuvan. He's been convinced. So you may think, okay, so he convinced Dhruva to go to Madhuvan. He's done all of that. What is the need for him to now go and speak to Uttanapad? Why does he have to go there? Because Dhruva will be successful. Narada knows this. He is Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future. So his disciple will achieve success. What's the need to go to Uttanapad? And he's questioning Uttanapad in such a strange way, right? Are you hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification? Why is he asking him? And that's for a deeper realization, as we will read in the coming verses. Narada is a bhakti yogi, right? So he follows the Bhagavat philosophy. So what is the Bhagavat philosophy? That Dharma, Artha, Kama, everything must be used for the process of devotional service. Whatever your purpose is, your Dharma, your Artha, right, your economic development, whatever your sense gratification is, everything should be inclined towards bhakti. So why is Narada asking such a question? He is purposefully prodding Uttanapad in a specific way for him to start reflecting on certain things. And we know that Narada does this very, very often. He's done this in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam with Vyasadeva, when he comes to meet Vyasadeva and he says, are you happy with what you have done thus far? You have written all these books. Are you happy with what you have done? And what does Vyasa do? He sits and he meditates and then he realizes, no, I am not, because I have not glorified the Lord. And because of Narada's questioning him in this way, Vyasadeva writes the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana. If Narada didn't question his disciple in this way, we would not have had the Bhagavatam today, right? So through Narada's expert guidance, right, this is now Uttanapad, through Narada's guidance and questioning in this way, Uttanapad has now the space to have some healthy remorse for what he has done. Because at this point, he's just sitting in guilt. He's looking despondent. Narada is saying, you're thinking of something for such a long time. Your face looks very withered up, What's wrong? What's wrong? So now that Narada has opened up the room for this conversation, Uttanapad can have some remorse and he himself can move on with some humility, right? Why must Uttanapad have remorse? Because the way he has acted is not in accordance with his dharma as a father, as a king, and even as, based on who he is. He has acted, you could say, in a way that's very unlike him, or should be, technically speaking, very unlike him. So these activities were actually unfavorable for him. And we see this in our life as well, that we need a space when we make mistakes, We all make mistakes. I myself make plenty of mistakes every single day. We need a space where we can be allowed to feel some healthy remorse and then move on from our mistake and grow in this way. So Narada is doing this for Uttanapad, that you have done, you've committed an error. We have done something, you could say, in our life that's unfavorable for our devotional service. But we feel some remorse, we learn our lesson, and then we move on. We carry on with all humility. We try and we try again, right? And through this practice of, remorse from our mistake and trying to learn and carrying on again in bhakti, the grace of the Lord will come, right? And in this way, there's a term, falling upwards. We don't fall downwards, that's guilt and just like constantly putting yourself down. No, I made a mistake. I realized that. How can I rectify myself? In this way, you fall upwards in humility. If you think about it, that's the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? King Parikshit failed in his duty as a king. He insulted a brahmana, right?